Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the launch of Out of Atlas by Damien Hine. Damien has been a friend of mine for quite a few years. He actually started as my brother's friend, and then we eventually connected over our love of writing, and now we're firm friends. And I went to Damien's wedding, and Damien has been pursuing a traditional route through publishing, and I also happen to run a publishing house. And eventually, it came about. We decided that we actually had some good synergies, and it would work well for us to publish together. And I think the end result has been quite spectacular. Wouldn't you say, Damien?
Yeah, it seems to be going really, really, really well so far.
Absolutely.
I think the first day we reached 5 continents. Within the first 3 days, we sold over 100 copies, and it just seems to keep going and going and going. So it's amazing.
Oh no, absolutely. It's very much an international seller as well, which is really exciting. And I think it's always nice to know that people from across the world are enjoying your book. I think that's one of the great things about the world of today, is that your writing can be read somewhere so far away. So for everyone who's watching, today the program is something like this. I will do an interview with Damien right now. I'll ask him 5 or 6 questions, and then Damien will read a scene from chapter 2 of Out of Atlas. We will then give you the opportunity to interview or interrogate Damien and find out more about his writing, his life as an author, his books. I will finish out with a few more questions, and then we will end the wonderful launch party, virtual party, and you can all go ahead and read Damien's book for yourselves. So first question, Damien, how did you get into writing? How did it all start?
That's a really good story. I'll touch on that in a second, but the first thing I want to say is I'm looking at all the names of the people here, and it's so wonderful to see you all here. Friends from up and down the country and around the world. So welcome, all of you. So how did I get into writing? That's a really good question. I think from as way back as I can remember, I have loved reading. So often when other people were outside in the summer, playing football and things like that, I'd be wrapped up in my imagination. And it was Roald Dahl and J.K. Rowling and Tolkien. And it wasn't very long before I started writing myself. So when I was about 9 years old, the first Toy Story film came out, and I was completely just fixated on those characters, and I started writing a few stories about Buzz Lightyear as if he was traveling around in space and all the things he was getting up to. And then a couple of years later, I was waiting for the 5th Harry Potter book to come out. And at the age of 12, waiting 3 years for a book was an extremely long time. So I took it on myself to write my own Harry Potter book. And I got pretty far, and it was doing pretty well. So I would say really from the earliest age, I've been enjoying reading and enjoying writing, and I've had a really strong imagination.
Okay, wonderful. So the next question for you is, what made you want to write these books in particular?
Yeah, so some of the books which I enjoyed the most when I was growing up were The Lord of the Rings, Philip Pullman's Dark Materials trilogy, some of the great fantasy tales that have stuck with us for so many years.
And sorry to interrupt, Damien, but is it true that Philip Pullman reached out to you on Twitter and asked for you to send him a copy of your book?
He did. He said he wanted to read it. And because we'd had a few kind of interactions here and there, and I mentioned to him that the first one was coming out, he said, yes, please send me a copy. And so one of the jobs I was doing today was sending copies out to various influential people, leaders of organizations and things like that today. Philip Pullman was one of those people. I hope he enjoys it.
And did you sign those copies?
Oh yes, I signed them, and I wrote a personal letter as well to all these different people.
That's absolutely lovely, Damien. Well done.
Yeah, hopefully they'll all really like them. So we were saying, what is it that made me want to write these books? I was saying I love great big fantasy tales, And when I was in my early 20s, I started thinking about what did I want to do with my life, because we've got a limited amount of time when we're alive, and I think it's really important to have a dream and to have something that you're working towards, something you're fighting for. And I was thinking back to my childhood and how I loved writing, and I was thinking, is there anything that would stop me from writing a book? And as I was thinking about that, I went on a walk around the estate where I lived, and into my head came this idea, which has become a central thing in the world of Receiver, where I don't want to give any spoilers. People have actually contacted me in advance of this meeting to specifically ask not for spoilers, but basically the central concept came into my head. And by the end of this walk, I had many of the different characters, and even most of the, like 3 defined stories, what they would each be about. I came home and I started typing it all up, writing it all down, so I just remember this because it felt quite important. And the more I wrote, the more I kept having ideas of what other things that could go in there and other characters, and even right through to the ending of the 3rd book was in my head right from the very beginning. And I sent it to a friend of mine, a girl up in Scotland called Jess, who was in her university days at the time. And you'll see her name in the acknowledgements of the book because she'd been a great supporter. I sent it to her, and she said, "This is really interesting. You should put more time into this." So that's what got me going 10 years ago. And it's the more I've worked on it, the bigger it's become, and now it's selling all over the world.
Absolutely wonderful, Damien. And of your characters in the book, without spoiling too much, who is your favorite character?
Okay. It's hard to say, hard to do this question without spoilers. So I'll just be careful. So there's a few different characters who I really, really like. There's a very old king who's got a golden beard, and his name's King Ondor. He's in charge of one of the great cities, and you meet him about halfway through the book. And he's just a very kind man, quite Shakespearean. So he's a very big personality. If there was a movie, he would be played by Brian Blessed, if people are aware of that guy. Shouting a lot, very kind of big personality. One of the other ones that people often tell me that they like is the character of Vandria, who is a young woman, a wanderer across the worlds of Receiver, very kind of quick-witted, and also very kind, and very deadly in battle. But I would say that my main character, who I love, and often writing scenes for this character has given me chills because of just how awesome I find him to be, is the character of Tempest. He's known as the Wolf Warrior, and in certain things in the world of Receiver, he's done amazing things in their past, and he's got just such a strength of character, such a focused presence wherever he is. I think that's about as much as I can say, except for I think if there was a movie, he would be played by Jeremy Irons.
Nice, good choice. Right, so a question I think you've been asked a few times is what kind of people can enjoy these books? Are they children's books? Are they adult books? Or are they more of a crossover like Harry Potter, where anyone can and would enjoy reading them?
Yeah, so it's actually been interesting hearing the early feedback of the book, and how it's been gone out and been received by people in the real world. So there's a local friend family of Amber and I here in where we live in Huntingdon, and they brought 3 copies for their family, and they've got 2 boys. The oldest of the 2 boys is about 10 or 11 years old. He loves reading, and he got through the first book in about a day. And he loved it. The second boy is also great, and within like 12 hours of getting the book, he had read 50 pages. And this boy is always very, very honest, Even if it's uncomfortable, he will tell you what he thinks, which I think is a really good strength of his, actually. His mum asked him what he thought, and he said, it's the best book I have ever read. And then what made me laugh was the mum and dad. They ordered a copy for themselves to share. And the night that they got it, they got into an argument because they both wanted to be the one to read it. Because so they were fighting over the book. So in terms of audience, I would say it is very much for young people. And when I was writing it, I was thinking of myself when I was about 12, 14. But also there's some very human themes in the book. So I would say there's a wider appeal. I've got a friend of mine who's a theatre critic in London in his 60s, and he doesn't really have a taste for fantasy. He wouldn't normally pick it up, but he saw this, and he said he really enjoyed it because, like Philip Pullman and Tolkien, you can use fantasy to talk about much bigger things, much deeper things, and I think it's that emotional core of the books which can resonate with a great number of people.
Wonderful. And how does it feel to be getting published finally after all these years? It's
amazing. It's so amazing. I've been working on these books for 10 years, and I first started trying to put steps down the road of publishing back in 2015. And I first of all started sending to literary agents and got a whole load of rejections back, which didn't feel great, but I decided to keep going. And I improved the books, sent it off again, and was rejected once more. And for years, I've faced setback after setback, and times when it seems you've come so close, but so close is not enough. You have to get there. So to have persevered all these years, to have seen the books take shape and become so good, in my opinion, slightly biased potentially, is incredible. And I still stop myself to sometimes or frequently throughout the day to say, this is really happening. What I have been dreaming about for 10 years is now. The book is here. Books 2 and 3 are ready, and there's people all over the world who are reading it and loving it. The dream has come true. So it's amazing. It's fantastic.
And the dreams will just keep coming, because book 2 and book 3 are coming pretty quickly after book 1. So, the people who have read book 1 will not need to wait the usual year to get hold of book 2 and book 3. It's going to be a lot quicker. So I can't wait for that to happen for you as well, because I think it's really exciting. So finally, before we allow you to do your wonderful reading, where can people find your books if they want to buy them?
Yes. So wherever Amazon sells books, you can find it. Look up Out of Atlas, put my name, and it will be there. You can get it if you're in ebooks, if that's your sort of thing, you can get it there. We've also got it in paperback, so you can get it there. So you can take your pick. Whichever Amazon is appropriate for your country is right there. I can see someone's asking about a larger print. The way we're doing it is it's print on demand or print for demand or something like that, where basically, yes, whenever you order a copy will be printed for you, which is great in 2 ways. Because firstly, it means that there's no waste. So we're not going to have warehouses which are filled with books which are never going to sell. Every single one of them is going to a real person who will hopefully read it and love it. And the second thing is it should never go out of stock. So because if you order it, it will be made for you. You won't have to wait a great long time for the next bunch of copies to be printed.
Absolutely. And you also take advantage of Amazon's fantastic worldwide distribution system, which allows people from anywhere in the world really to pick up a copy, which is not something that you can always do with books, particularly even, for example, if Damien was to say do a deal with a traditional British publisher in the UK, they would probably only sell it into the UK and Commonwealth because those are the only rights that they would exploit. The great thing about using the Amazon system is that, and the rights situation that we have, is that now people can read it all over the world. So now, Damien, I think it is time for you to read a scene from Out of Atlas. So, yeah. Everyone, let's mute everyone.
Going to be reading from chapter 2. So let me set the scene a little bit. At the beginning of the book, we come across a character called Fred Banks, who has grown up in the city of Atlas. And because of certain things in the history of this city, they have surrounded themselves with very high walls. They live in the city, and everyone who lives in that city will never leave, and they will spend their whole life there. They will die there. And because they believe that these walls protect them, they're happy with the situation. But Fred Banks starts to wonder if there is something more going on, and starts to question this whole situation. And at the end of chapter 1, he decides, I'm going to sneak out in the middle of the night, and I'm going to climb the walls for myself and see what lies beyond. So appropriately enough, the title of chapter 2 is What Lay Beyond. Atlas changed at night. Under a pale sliver of moonlight, the cobble streets were dotted with lamps lit by gas distilled from coal. It wasn't hard keeping out of the few feet of light they threw. Still, far-off sounds felt as close as his skin. A cat hissing and scrambling away. The last drunk laugh leaving the whippersnapper. With each step, the gargoyles, which are things on the wall which are supposed to scare outsiders. The gargoyles loomed closer. Shadows exaggerated their features, casting them as ghastly watchers, and he half expected one to crank its stone head round, freeze him with its dead eyes, and unleash a blood-curdling cry. A mocking tremor ran down his spine. "Oh, Fred, what are you doing?" it said. "Finding the truth," he replied. After 25 minutes, he found himself at the foot of the north wall. He lowered his hood and squinted about. The moon cast a glow over the ropes and ladders soldiers once used to reach the top. He tracked one of them up 30 feet to a wooden platform where another ladder waited. Ladder, platform, all the way to the top. "Seems easy enough," he muttered. "Bet it won't be." He approached, slid a finger along one of the rungs, and it came away carrying dust. His brow creased. Not used in some time. Makes sense. Better test it. Seizing the rails on either side, he put his full weight on the lowest rung. Immediately it sagged with a low moan. Doesn't sound good. The next moment it cracked and wood chips sprayed up in his face. Damn. If someone heard that. He whipped round. The dusty streets zipped south, zigzagging in and out of each other, yet nothing stirred and no one came calling after him. Right then, back to it. The question, though, was how? How on earth could he do it? The wall leapt 150 feet up to the moon. If other ladders proved as unreliable as this one, he'd be better off using a glass pickaxe. He peered east across the wall and grinned. Oh yeah. When the mines came within the city limits, they constructed a mechanism for hoisting teams of men and rocks in bulk to the top. A pair of timber rafts counterbalanced each other to form a lift controlled from the bottom. Thus, as one ascended, the other descended. By conventional means, it took a small crew to run safely. Well, conventional means. He snatched an axe from the base of the wall, along with a pair of dusty, discarded rawhide gloves, and stomped off. The nearest raft sat flat against the earth. Ropes rose from each corner and melded into one strand as thick as his arm that climbed to a colossal pulley at the top. A night wind sang against the rope and billowed down on him, lifting his coat high. He froze in his tracks. The fibers of his shirt stuck to the chilled sweat sliding down his back. "This is crazy," he muttered. "Totally crazy." It was also this, or the ladders. A fat lot of use they were. Clinging to the axe, he mounted the raft, shimmied up one of the ropes, and steadied himself against the master rope. The rawhide gloves gave him tremendous grip. He leant back and gazed up. A cold drop of sweat dripped from his chin. Man, it was far. Am I really doing this? People in Atlas talked about prayer sometimes, and looking up, he wished there was someone to pray to. Here goes. Ensuring he had a good grip, he leant back and struck the rope with the axe. The collision sent ripples to the moon, and a bunch of threads split. Again, more threads split, and another ripple to the moon. Once more, that did it. The rest of the threads started snapping, great fissures rocketing up. His eyes bulged. Oh, crap! The word was ripped from his lips as the rope shot up like a firework. He clung for dear life, begging his arms to not be ripped clean off. Ladders and platforms scorched past. The other raft came plunging down like a guillotine, missing him by inches and taking his breath with it. Then the top was rushing to meet him. His throat clamped tight. The pulley looked even more immense from here. Just before the rope mangled him into it, he let go and went coursing into the air. For an instant, he sailed above the wall. He slowed, and it was him and the stars. No wind, no movement. This is no time to relax. What came next was vital. Landing. The nudge of gravity hooked into him. The wind reversed, and he swiveled his gaze to the head of the wall with his axe poised to strike. 3, 2, now! He lunged with both hands, and the axe caught a bed of rocks. Hold! For goodness sake, hold! The axe head snagged, held true, and his whole body slammed into the wall. The impact was a sledgehammer to the chest. Blinding pain rolled through him. Ah! Before his arms gave way, he wrenched himself up and collapsed flat on his back. Whoa! It was like the rope had ripped the lungs from his chest and proceeded to bury them beneath the wall. He scrunched his eyes tight and laughed with a delirious cocktail of terror and adrenaline. Let's never do that again. Inch by inch, sanity started returning to his body, now for the prize. His knuckles were white, trembling. Planting them either side, he wrenched himself into a sitting position. The world lurched and he wobbled dangerously close to the edge. Ooh, okay, not too fast. When the horizon steadied itself into an appropriate, non-lurching angle, he let himself gaze around. A quiet smile crept up his cheeks. No fires, no burning. The world was green and beautiful. By the stars and the moon, he could make out hills and valleys, flowing waters. He could smell the rich aroma of fresh grass. Owls were soaring, and in the crystal silence, he could even hear foxes barking and howling. Yet that wasn't the strangest thing. That wouldn't be the thing to ignite his imagination like wildfire. On the north horizon, he saw something that beggared belief. Where the earth met the sky, there lay a silver glint of beaming light, like a newborn star rising for the first time. Were it not midnight, he would have put it down to the first glimmer of a rising sun. Yet, unlike the sun, it was staying quite put. He blinked hard, and again it remained. So, not a star, and not the sun. Then what was it? Could it be a place, a people? He turned back to gaze at Atlas. Why had no one ever told him about this before? Did no one know? Oh, maybe there was one person who did. The painting in Mr. Beverin's classroom. Perhaps the professor knew. He whipped back to the glint on the horizon. What else did Mr. Beverins know? What else was there to tell? As he peered on it, his heart leapt up again with an almighty yes. The world was bigger than Atlas, so much bigger. And there were adventures to be had, places to go, secrets to unveil. The world beyond was not fierce and burning, but good, endlessly good, overflowing with rich possibility, running deep with boundless freedom. He was practically salivating. He turned back to Atlas. Mr. Beverins, about time you and I had a chat. And there we go. That's chapter 2.
Amazing, Damien. Thank you so much for that reading. Is that the first reading you've done of your book?
To people, yes.
Wow. Wow.
There's
Another first.
video coming out later in the week, but that was the first time I've read to a live audience.
Wonderful. Well, now is the opportunity for the audience to ask their questions. So the way we're going to do this is Sebastian is going to unmute the person who I select from the chat, whose question it is, and then they can read their question out loud. So the first question was from Awais Khan. If you wouldn't mind unmuting Awais, Awais can ask his question. Sebastian.
Hello.
There we go. Awais, you're unmuted.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
I said, Awais, you can ask Damien your question now. You are unmuted.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to ask that what was the inspiration behind that cover that we saw?
Okay. Well, it's difficult to talk about that because people have specifically asked me to not give spoilers. It's a scene in the book. I won't say what's happening or when it's happening because I don't want to give anything away. But I was thinking as I was coming up with the covers for all three books, I wanted them to be very interesting, something that would put questions into your mind. I wanted them to have each of them have the main cover on the front. So there you go. The book 2 and 3 has the main character on the front as well. And I also wanted them to look quite different in terms of the color scheme. So you look at the cover of Out of Atlas, and the defining color is this brilliant orange, which is quite unique, quite eye-catching. When you go on Amazon, you don't see many other covers with this kind of color on it. So it's so eye-catching, and I thought it would be one of the more exciting parts of the book. Those of you who have read it will probably know what part it is, and those of you who don't can look forward to finding out.
So the next question, and thank you, Damien, for that, is from Ryan Noble. So Ryan, if you don't mind unmuting yourself, please ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So how long did it take to write Out of Atlas? I know, but I think what you're saying is you've kind of wrote all three books almost together and then obviously split them into the books themselves. But roughly how long did it take to write that? And just a side thing to that, say when you're out and say you're out at a restaurant or something and an idea comes to you, how does that convey into the book? Do you have a notepad or do you just remember it?
Yeah. So I think it'd be very dangerous to try and remember it because you never know when an idea is going to come to you. And it might be right in the middle of the night, it might be 3 o'clock in the morning, and you have just an idea comes into your mind, and you're suddenly completely awake because there's something that's come. In fact, there's a whole chapter of book 2 which I wrote at 3 o'clock in the morning because I had a little bit of an idea, and I was like, okay, that's good, that's written down, because I was jotting it down in a notepad by my bed, and then I would turn back to sleep. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep now. And then a little bit more came, and I went back to sleep, and more came, and I kept back to sleep. And in the end, I'd done a whole chapter just kind of when I was trying to even sleep. So I think if for someone who is a writer, it's very important to have some kind of system where you can keep track of all the different ideas that come to you. For me, it's notebooks, and also I sometimes send emails to myself or Facebook messages to myself. Whatever device I can use to get things down at the time, I will use that. So even when it came to writing sections of book 3, there were whole scenes where what I had to do really was find the notes, which I'd put together from like years before, and they would all come together, and that would be a scene written already. Out of Atlas, I would say between all the different drafts, about 3 years. That was really the book where I was learning to write and creating the world of Receiver and most of the main characters. So about 3 years for that one, although I was in and out of other ones as well, writing drafts for other ones too.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that question, Ryan. So the next one is from Sophie. Sophie, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, you can ask your question. Yes, you're unmuted, Sophie. I can see that. Please ask your question. I think Sophie might be having some technical problems.
Is it written in the chat, maybe?
I can read it aloud. I just wanted to hear someone else's voice other than mine and yours. Yeah, never mind. I'll still ask the question. So Sophie's question was, how do you nurture your imagination? Is it about taking daily time out of normal life? Is your abundant imagination simply there?
I think there's different things. So to me, one of the things that helps the most is keeping an eye on how I'm doing. If I'm stressed by different things in life, if I'm very, very busy, too busy, and there isn't room for imagination, then that can be something that stifles the imagination. Then I know there's certain things. Sometimes I get inspired when I'm reading books or watching movies, or if I'm out for a walk in the countryside. Sometimes it's just I have an interaction with someone, and that makes me think, oh, maybe this character would feel like this person does right now, or so inspiration can come from all over the place. So I always try and look at feeding that inspiration and keeping track of it, making notes of all the different things that come to me. There's something else which comes, but I can't say it because it relates to book 2. And you guys are going to have to wait.
All right, thank you, Damien, and thank you for being so considerate with everyone on not spoiling anything, because I think it's very easy to do as an author, and I've done it myself before. So the next one is from Amazing A, and I think we will probably make this the last of the audience questions. So Amazing A, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself.
Hi. So I have a question. As we already know, then there is a wall that's important to the book. So how much of the book is based on your life? I'm aware that the school that you went to has a wall around it. So that was quite intriguing to me.
Okay. So there's all sorts of things which have gone into the books. I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to travel to different parts of the world. So there's many different cultures which have inspired the world of Receiver. Sometimes when I've been going through different things in my life, that's been reflected in the characters and the journeys that they go on. And one really big thing for me is my own beliefs about the world. I'm a Christian, and so that leads me to believe that at the heart of this world there is hope, hope for all of us. We can find our place in the world, and that really is quite a big thing in the first book. Is our main character is on a journey where he is looking for his place in the world. And in some ways it's a bit of a spiritual journey that he goes on as well. And so I would say that my own personal beliefs, my own personality and values have very much shaped the world of Receiver and some of the different things that is going on.
Fantastic. So I think that will be the last of the audience questions, because we have a few more from me. So the main question is, what can people do if they want to support your books?
Yeah. So there's 3 things that anyone can do. And so to make them as simple as possible, I have made them all start with a P, which for those of us who teach, if you can make things all start with the same letter, it helps. So I've even made little cards. So the first thing that anyone can do is they can pick up a copy. So I know many of you have already done it, and that's incredible. That's really good. But then you can support the books by buying a copy. And I know also I've got some friends who they've been looking at all the kids' birthdays that they've got for their coming up across the year, all the different birthday parties, and they've got to buy a gift, and they're saying, oh, this is something that I'm going to give. It's going to be completely unique. And parents are always appreciative when their kids are given books. So that's the first one, is pick up a copy. Second one is post a review. And we've had some fantastic reviews already, which has been really encouraging. Last time I checked, we had 9 reviews up for the book already, all of them 5 stars, which is great to see. And for me, when I'm looking at a book on Amazon and I don't know who the author is, one of the things that I want to know is, well, what do other people think? Have they enjoyed this book? Is it a good book? Is it worth reading? So if you have enjoyed this book, or if you're working your way through it and you're enjoying it, why don't you post a review? The more reviews that we can get up there on Amazon, the more that's going to encourage more people to pick it up. The final thing we can do is pass it around. So that's about word of mouth. Portal Books are putting thousands into advertising this book, which is incredible. There's nothing that can replace word of mouth. So if you've got friends who you think might like this book, let them know about it. Tell them about it. Maybe even buy them a copy. I was told by a friend earlier on that she was out to coffee with a friend of hers, and she mentioned the book, and it led into a conversation. And then right there and then, the friend bought a copy for her son. So those are the three things anyone can do: pick up a copy, post a review, and pass it around. And the more of us who are doing that, the bigger this book's going to become.
Absolutely. I can't stress enough how important reviews are. They are actually more important than sales. So if you didn't buy a book but left a review, it would actually help Damien more. So please, if you have read the book, or if you're halfway through and you feel like you're ready to leave a review, or even just a rating without writing anything down, it makes an absolutely massive difference to Damien, and it will make a huge difference in any country you do it in, particularly the US. If you are an American, or your family is American and you've sent it to them, please do try and get reviews on Amazon.com. That is where the vast majority of Damien's sales will come from, and it's very important we get a few reviews there so that Amazon can push it to more people, because that's how Amazon works. The more reviews you get and the more purchases you get, the more people it pushes the book out to in their recommendation feed. So yeah, sorry to get a bit technical, but I just wanted to stress how important that is. So final question of tonight. Is there anybody you would like to thank before we sign off?
Yeah. So you might actually find that if I mention you now, your name will be in the acknowledgements. So I do look. So you flip to the back page and see if actually your name might be in print already. So the first people I would like to thank would be my family, who have supported me all along, especially my mum and dad. They've been great encouragers, and they've always been getting behind me with these books, and that's been amazing. Second person I would like to thank is my wonderful wife, Amber, who is my biggest supporter, and I just love her, just cherish her so much. I could not have done this without her. And there's also, I would like to thank all of you as well, because many of you, I look at your names there on the screen, and you've been part of this journey, and you've encouraged me going back years and years. You've been reading the books, you've been helping me pick myself up when I've faced a very difficult rejection, and that has been gold dust. That has been invaluable. I'm so thankful to all of you. And the last person or thing that I would like to thank is really my faith, which has kept me strong through all of those different moments of rejection, and has inspired the books in so many ways.
Well, thank you, Damien, for letting everyone know. Yes, I would like to thank you as well for being a wonderful author and being patient with us as we've gone through this process. It is a difficult one when you have to let go of the control of your book and put it in other people's hands. So you've been great. I feel very bad for ending it so soon, so perhaps we should do 2 more questions, Damien, before we sign off.
Great. I haven't kept with the chat, but it looks like there's another 8 things there, and they will all be good.
Yes. I think we'll do another sort of 5-10 minutes of questions just before, just because I know there's quite a few people who are keen. So some of them look spoilery, so I'm going to avoid those. Sorry, guys. And
if you have a particular question that's burning, you can contact me and we can have a chat. But we're going to keep spoilers out. No spoilers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another question that I'll just answer quickly. Is it going to be available in high street stores like Waterstones? Technically, Waterstones can stock Damien's books, but it's quite unlikely that they will, simply because Waterstones, you generally need to partner with them. But a local store manager could potentially get Damien's books on the shelves. We are in the system. It's just simply they tend to buy books in bulk, and that's just not how our publishing process works. Here we go. Oh, how has Christianity inspired this book? That's from Andreas Lindholm.
That's a great question. I would say in enormous ways to try and separate my faith in these books would be to completely rip the books apart. So in many ways, all the different characters we come across, I won't spoil anything, but many of them come from a background where they may have been hurt, they may have been broken in different ways, and through their journeys they come to wholeness, they come to be healed of the different emotional scars, and to me that's a great thing that faith can do. We all go through different things in life, certainly I have, and faith can be a way that we put ourselves back together, that there's a God of love who will be with us no matter what we go through. There's one gigantic thing which I could say, but I wonder if it would be a spoiler. So I'm not going to go into that.
You've been so good so far, Damien. Don't give in to temptation. You must resist.
So, but some of the big themes of the book of hope, finding your place in the world, good versus evil, more things which I can't say, but there's so much of the emotional texture and the journeys that these characters are on have been informed by faith. But I've always sought to do it in a way where it's naturally coming into the story. It's not setting out to be preachy or anything like that in any way. It's more in the way that Tolkien did it, where he was a Catholic, but he wrote an incredible story that's captured the imagination of millions of people. And wherever you are in life, you can enjoy his stories. You don't have to fit into a certain box to enjoy it. It just is there and it's part of it.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry, Andreas, I didn't let you ask that yourself. I got carried away. So finally, we'll let Amy ask a question. Amy Latte, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and asking your question.
Yeah, this is actually the Lotte family.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Kieran and Amy are here. Hi, Taran. So yeah, my question was, rather than like a specific bit of the story, what's the thing that you would most like people to experience when they encounter your story? What's the thing that you're like dreaming of that they would experience whilst they're reading this book or these books?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And before I get into it, my good friend Kieran was the best man at my wedding, and I haven't been able to speak to him since something that happened very recently for the family, where they have now had a second child, a little boy. So before I get into it, I want to say congratulations. That's so wonderful. I can't wait to see him and hold him and be with you guys. So what do I want people to experience? To me, these books, there's such an epic scale, and there's so much excitement. It's like whenever I was writing, it was like having sort of injecting adrenaline straight into my veins. So I'm hoping that people will be swept up in their imaginations, and they will love the characters, and they'll love the worlds, and they'll feel like they're going on an adventure themselves. And I hope also that some of the questions and some of the personal journeys that the characters are on, people might feel that they start to think on those things as well. The main thing which is happening in the first book is Fred Banks is trying to find his place in the world, and that's all I'll say. I won't go any more into it, but I think that having that as a core concept makes the book very relatable, because I don't think I've ever met anyone who would not say that they want to find their place in the world, and not interested in finding their place in the world. And so I hope that as much as people enjoy the world and the characters and adventures, the deeper things that are in there will mean a lot to them, and maybe cause them to reflect on their own lives and what they can take from these books. You're muted, Taran.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Thank you so much, everyone. I think maybe we have time for one more question, Damien. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm very excited for whatever questions there are.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 more questions, and then we'll let everyone go, okay? Just because I've seen 2 very good ones come in. So one is from Paul Sheehan. Paul, do you mind asking your question?
Paul, you there?
Paul? if you can unmute yourself, Paul, you can ask your question.
Hello.
The mute button. There it is.
Hello. Yes, I was just wondering what you'll be writing next.
Okay, so I have actually got two main ideas, and I've been getting quite a lot of ideas for a second trilogy in the world of Receiver, books 4, 5, and 6. So that is one potential thing which could happen. If these books do well enough, that there would potentially be interest for that. There is a whole new journey and all sorts of other things which are taking shape. The other idea, which I've been having a lot of fun thinking about, is simply you could call it a crossover between Jumanji and Hunted from Channel 4. Jumanji is that film with Robin Williams where there's a game which things come out of it into the real world, and then the TV show Hunted is a real life reality TV show where people have to go on the run and be hunted by police for 4 weeks. And if they manage to get through these 4 weeks without being caught, they win a share of £100,000. I've loved that show, been watching it from the beginning. And a concept came into my mind that would put these two things together into a story which is just a lot of fun and could be quite fun to write.
Wonderful. And one last question from Janine, and then we will sign off. Janine, if you don't mind unmuting yourself.
So my question was, have you ever considered making a prequel on how Atlas became Atlas?
Okay, that's a good question. Before I get into it, I need to apologize to Janine because Janine read an earlier version of the book and it kept her up late into the night because she so wanted to finish it. And since the book has come out properly, she has picked up a copy and it has happened to her a second time. So I'm really sorry for taking away your sleep. I heard another story of someone today who decided they were going to spend 5 minutes just looking at the beginning of the story in a 5-minute break at work, and they ended up getting to chapter 3 and being late for a meeting. So I'm so sorry when I cause bad things to happen in your life because you're so entertained by the books. Prequel about Atlas, I've got certain ideas about. I know quite a lot about how Atlas came to be, and I think it has largely been explained in book 1, and it's possible that if I said any more, I would say a spoiler. But I feel like I've covered that subject quite well. I think if I was to write a prequel, in the history of Receiver, this is a little thing, not a spoiler, I wouldn't count. There was a war between certain races that lasted for 100,000 years. And I think if I was to take any period of the history of this world to write in, it would be then. Because all sorts of crazy things were going on and it could be very, very exciting. So yeah, that would be my thoughts about prequels.
Thank you so much, Damien, and thank you everyone for coming. When Damien told me about this event, I was excited, but I had never seen an event before have that many people joining. Usually it's 6 or 7, and you have far gone beyond my expectations for family and friend support for a book. And I think you should all be really proud of yourselves for coming out and supporting somebody especially when these books mean so much to them and they've spent so much time writing them. So I think everyone can unmute themselves now and say 3 cheers to Damien, and thank you so much for giving us your time today, Damien, as well. So goodbye everyone. If you want to stay and shout at Damien and tell him how amazing he is, feel free. But as an MC, I'm going to sign off. And Damien, feel free to hang out with your crew and talk to them as much as you like. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I officially end the event. Bye.
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 Hooray!
Well done, Damien.
We did it, guys.
It's official.